From all corners of the globe to your ears, it's the Midnight Movie Cowboys. Sometimes informative, sometimes controversial, but always unpredictable. It's the Midnight Movie Cowboys podcast with your hosts, Hunter, John, and Stu. And now, on with the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Midnight Movie Cowboys. Joining me in the far-off reaches of space, we have Mr. Stuart Balk. Say hello, Stu.
Hello. Heavy metal.
Yeah. And huffing gas in his basement is Mr. John Gray. Say hello, John.
Hello, everybody. A little out of it.
And the movie we're going to be covering this week is heavy metal. But first, before we get into that, let's whip out our junk. Stu, do you want to go first?
Okay, I've got a little bit, but I will rip through them quick. All right.
Alrighty.
Okay, so first up, I'll give prices as well because I'm just Andy Warhol. If you read his diary, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, this I got for free off a guy off Marketplace. Oh shit! Change your background.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
On the video component, the virtual backgrounds don't work with this segment.
Yeah, just don't like it.
Yeah, it looks like a Joe Biden press video.
Yeah.
Stuff disappears.
Reappears.
Your hand goes through the microphone. It's all virtual.
Oh, here we are. None. There we go. All right. So first up, I got this off a guy off Marketplace the other day. He gave it to me for nothing. Hogan Knows Best, seasons 1, 2, and 3.
Sweet.
Yeah. Because
Can he walk? What's going on with him?
Mate, I don't know. There's stories going around that Hulk's paralyzed from the legs down, and then they shoot those down. That's not true. And then there's also him with his Scientology girlfriend, and Scientology's trying to recruit the Hulk. And I think the little head's thinking more than the big head is with that one.
I think that's the case a lot of the time with him.
Yeah.
No, Scientology does send out their best. They get the Hulkster.
She's not bad looking, I tell you.
America will fall if they get the Hulkster.
Yeah.
Will be a Scientologist theocracy very soon.
I've always been curious as to why the NFL, I know the obvious answer, allows their ad during the Super Bowl. Is it halftime for the ads?
No, they run ads during the breaks. They run them very quickly. I noticed this year all the movie trailers were watch the complete trailer online. Like they wouldn't give them enough time to do like a 90-second ad.
Oh, okay.
So it was 30 seconds instead.
So yeah, there's that. This I picked up while I was away with the family at a thrift store for $2. Been long deleted. It's called Who Killed Nancy? Documentary about the by Alan G. Parker, not Alan Parker. But
saw it many years ago.
It's all right.
It's Rocket's Red Glare. There, saved you a click.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. It basically gives you the whole thing in the first 10 minutes, and all the rest of the 80-something minutes is, Sid was a really nice guy. Sid was an asshole. Nancy was a hooker. Whatever. You knew all that. This I picked up for $1 as well while I was away with the fam. Paul McCartney's Wingspan documentary. Been wanting to get that for a while. Picked this up the other day. The Doors, final cut. It's got both cuts on there. This one is the last fucking time I ever buy this movie. I swear to God. But I had to get it. Highlander in 4K.
I think everybody's bought Highlander and Evil Dead countless times.
That is the last time, I swear on this earth, that I buy that film. I don't care if it comes out in 24K. I don't care. It's not going to look as any good as the 4K does. These are picked up during the Black Friday sale a while back. I forgot about them. That was about $10. Like Father, Like Son. A bit dark to see. Kirk Cameron, Dudley Moore. Like this film. Always have since I was a teenager. Animal House there. 4K. I was going cheap. This one I had to get because it was going cheap. Film from my youth. Going Ape with Tony Danza and Danny DeVito.
It's funny because it's got a monkey in it.
Monkeys.
All
right, getting down to the last three. Got this off Amazon for a steal, like $20. It's the 3 latest Spider-Man films in 4K and Blu-ray.
Uh,
Yeah. All right. This one I picked up for a tenner off a guy on Marketplace. You're gonna laugh, but I don't give a shit because I loved it when I was in my 20s. The complete series of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart. Yeah, it's $10.
You got that, and
cat.
you're not German. Amazing.
She's got that cat who wisecracks. He's funny.
The Germans love that show. Did you know that?
No, I
love
didn't.
it.
Did they?
They're like, Sabrina has talking cats. Very good.
Who cares,
love it.
man?
She's like their Jerry Lewis.
Favorite of the Black Forest, I think.
Your turn, excuse me. Man, the last one is I picked up this for 15 off a guy, long deleted. I think it is. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. with Bruce Campbell.
Never saw that. Always heard it always had a cult following.
Yeah. I saw it back it was on in the early 90s. I'll call it in the mid 90s. It ran like a 2 a.m. thing here on a Saturday night, like they used to do with the Mike Hammer stuff. They'd run that. And I remember digging it. And for $15, the entire series, I couldn't pass it up. And that is me. Done.
All right. John, you want to go next?
Sure. Let's see. First, I got the remastered edition of the Demolition 23 album on CD. This is put out by Little Steven's Wicked Cool Records. He produced the album originally. It was deleted many years ago. It was out of print, impossible to get, and finally they've issued it on CD in a really good, remaster special edition. But
hey, John, just before you go on, did you ever get that collection by Dust, Marky Ramone's first band?
No, it's funny. It's been in my Amazon cart forever. I should probably pull the trigger because before I know it, it'll
it's
go
going to go
$6 to $200. Like overnight. That's how it seems to work with CDs these days.
Yeah,
because I have like a download rip from years ago when I would go through all these blogs and they would have the rapid share links to all these Rare Garage albums. So I have tons of that stuff on MP3 and burn CDs. But it's like I should probably get it. It's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Even though Marky would put it down. He was like, "Oh, it's not that good" or whatever. But it's pretty decent.
It's a bit of a super group. Actually, it was
Demolition 23. I should say it was. I think the concept was to get the Hanoi Rocks sound properly recorded, because if you hear those old Hanoi Rocks records, they're kind of high on the treble and very, very little bass in their recordings. I don't think they knew how to record that stuff. So this is like a well recorded Hanoi Rocks album. It's fantastic.
Should have got Vince Neil to record their albums.
they're like strangling him and
that's right.
Getting into fights, and also I got Hunter will dig this. Genesis, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. This is apparently current remastered edition is sitting at the CD store, and I picked that up because I don't have any of the Peter Gabriel Genesis on CD, which is the only variation of the band I actually like. Let's see here. Also,
what's your favorite Lamb track?
Let's see on here. Here probably the Chamber of 32 Doors, maybe. I don't know, because it's a double album. I kind of just let it play.
Like the Lamy is one that comes to mind for me. I really like that song.
Do they play it on the prog rock satellite channels?
Yeah, I think
I never hear this stuff anywhere. Like, sometimes you'll hear Watcher in the Sky or whatever.
Yeah, I know Steve Hackett does renditions of these songs, and that's one that and he puts out these live videos of it, and that one I always enjoy seeing done.
Mm-hmm. And I haven't been listening to Genesis in a long time because I went on the King Crimson trip for a while, and then I said, all right, I need some old school Peter Gabriel when he was a sci-fi nerd putting on costumes on stage.
It's been ages since I heard Genesis. Never.
What's that?
I said it's been ages since I heard Genesis, which is never.
Oh, you should listen to Genesis.
Funny enough, I was talking to my dad last week, and he was saying the same thing. With the Peter Gabriel Genesis, he goes, you got to, do a deep dive into that stuff.
Yeah, you should. Start with like
blast it
Nursery
on like
Crime.
your highest end stereo system, and just like, it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, put on listen on the best sound system you have. Listen to the song "The Musical Box."
Not on
off of
headphones.
Nursery
I've got some high
or
end
headphones, whatever is going to sound awesome.
Okay, good.
Listen to The Musical Box. That song is a journey. It is amazing. Peter
Whatever you
Gabriel's
listen to Iron
performance.
Butterfly on, use that for Genesis.
And you can hear Phil doing the backing vocals on it if you if you're familiar with his voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got Also Selling England by the Pound. This is the other release they had, which I still got the tag. Haven't opened it. Haven't broken the plastic on these.
I know what I like in your wardrobe.
Time. Yeah, I've only had Peter Gabriel Genesis on vinyl. Does that sound, Hunter? So because back years ago, you could get the vinyl for nothing because nobody cared about vinyl.
Oh
this
man,
I picked up a double vinyl album of Nursery Crime and Foxtrot, for very little money. It was both albums in one pack.
Hey Hunter, let me ask you something. Half Price Books, have they jacked their vinyl prices up now over the last few years?
It depends on what it is.
Okay.
But usually you can get stuff pretty cheap there still.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah. Some places have jacked theirs up too much, so I don't really buy from those places. But Half Price Books is pretty fair. I mean, if they get something valuable, it'll go for a high price, but
Yeah. Marketplace is the worst. Some people just got overinflated ideas of what these things are worth.
Oh yeah.
I don't even bother with Marketplace. It's like
I've gotten some good things, not vinyl.
Jungle Brothers. This is a recent CD. I wasn't even aware they were still putting out work, and they're one of my favorite groups from that nice era of hip hop between like 88 and 1990, like before gangster rap and kind of like when they could still sample. So they made interesting records, and then hell pretty much. But the Jungle Brothers were one of the better acts from that era, and very underrated. And I will say that in the last couple of weeks, I was listening to De La Soul is Dead, and apparently was made aware this week that a member of De La Soul died. So
John strikes again.
I know.
Son of a bitch. I was playing De La Soul is Dead in the car like a week ago, telling my son this is when rap was really good.
Hunter, I got a new name for John. Loc-Nar.
He's the Loc-Nar.
It is. It's like a Loc-Nar curse. I was like, boy, these guys are like my age. They're not going to die anytime soon. And then, gosh, damn it. And last but not least is Karen Wheeler's a Karen Wheeler solo album. She was the singing voice of Soul to Soul, which was a big act when I was in high school, 1989. And she put out some solo records that I think are pretty good. It's very good, kind of late 80s R&B sound, probably the last era of that music I really like, because you're young when it's out. It's got the New Jack Swing type sound and recording quality, production quality. Really, really good. Sounds really, really cool for stuff from that era. It's aged very well. I don't know why. Suddenly I'm getting back into my high school music. I guess trying to feel young because I'm now middle aged. But who knows?
Retroactive with your
you'll have that feeling very soon, Hunter. I guarantee
you will. It is unavoidable.
Oh, I've already been listening to stuff that was popular when I was in high school. That's already happening. So
it'll get
We've
worse.
Accelerated your aging, Hunter. I just but anyway, that's it for me and my
all
junk.
Right. Mine's really short. You'll appreciate this one. I was very happy when I saw this come out on Blu-ray because I've been wanting it in HD, so I can finally say goodbye to my DVD. Peter Weir's Gallipoli with Mel Gibson, classic. Very happy to get that. When I saw that on the shelf, I was like, "Oh, that's a get." This one
now get Attack 4Z.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
This one I was happy to add to my Sherlock Holmes collection, Young Sherlock Holmes Steelbook. And there's the back.
Who put that out?
I'm sorry?
Who put that out?
This was put out by Paramount.
Oh.
First time on Blu-ray, it says. But yeah, produced by Spielberg, directed by Barry Levinson, and with a script by Chris Columbus. So Produced by Henry Winkler too. Weird.
Weird.
And that was the first movie to have an all CGI character in it. There's a stained glass window warrior, like a stained glass window shatters and a warrior comes out of it.
Oh, really?
Wielding a sword. That was the first all CG character in a movie. Last, but certainly not least. This one's been a long time coming, fellas.
Heavy metal in 4K.
You. What?
Heavy metal in 4K.
No. Almost as good. Maybe better. I've been having this in my collection finally. It's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Sidekicks. 4K. 4K, baby. Look at
4K.
that.
4K? Are you serious?
Gaze upon this packaging. Look at this.
Joe Piscopo's steroided veins in HD.
Got this. Pops out.
Chuck's toupee in HD. Oh my god.
Yeah. Look, we
Does
got
it come with
a cover.
Does it come with a miniature wheelchair?
And we got it's got a reversible cover, 2 discs, Blu-ray and 4K. So you can,
Julie Nixon and HD is not a bad deal.
It doesn't hurt.
So,
no, it does not. And it also has.
That's a good compromise.
We also got this book.
How the fuck would they go all out for fucking sidekicks? Seriously.
Vinegar
Syndrome's thing is like giving beyond Criterion treatment to just garbage movies. That's kind of their bit that they do.
Yeah, they have like the martial arts movies Billy Blanks made up in Toronto for Jalal Murhai, and they give them these amazing packages of like I got Talons of the Eagle. It could fool you into thinking it's a terrific movie. It's decent. It's better than I thought years ago, but I don't know. Does it really deserve that treatment? Good Lord.
I mean, I've got these deluxe sets. Some of the movies you're like, okay, like Beastmaster has a following. Okay, cool. Flesh for Frankenstein. That's a culty movie. But when you're in these Vinegar Syndrome groups on Facebook, everybody's like, does anybody here actually like the movies that they put out?
I can't stand those
they put out.
Those groups, it's always someone going, please release this film. Please release this. I mean,
I know.
You've got to get access, you got to get rights, you got to get clearances.
Oh, yeah. Why isn't this movie in the Criterion Collection? I got news for you, because they just take what they can get.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where everything that used to be on your generic MGM DVDs was suddenly getting Criterion releases. It's like, because they got that library,
And
it's the licensing deal. It's whoever's,
of course it is,
can supply them with the right stuff.
There's always that one dickhead in there as well who goes, oh, Sidekicks gets a 4K release, yet somewhere in a corner, the African Queen is crying. It's like, it was a sad, like, fuck off, idiot. I mean, seriously.
I'm sorry, but if a movie ever deserved the royal treatment, it's Sidekicks.
Sidekicks.
It's like Severin. I think it was Severin that got the rights to Overboard, the Kurt Russell comedy.
Oh my god!
Just because they asked for it as a joke.
Yeah,
they just made a joke to the license guy. Hey, could we get Overboard? They went, sure. And they gave it to him, so it got put out.
People love that. Label. People love that movie.
I've never seen it.
There's only one shot in that film that is worth anything.
Well, and it's one of those movies that when
Goldie's
they remade
ass,
it, they did a
Goldie Hawn's ass. Yeah,
they did a gender swap for the remake, because if you watch the Overboard movie, Kurt Russell is a rapist in that movie. There's stuff he does that is legally rape.
Like Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, speaking of
sex, Mike McPadden mention that in his book?
Probably.
I had to rewrite my review of Overboard because it's not right. Don't cancel me, please.
Well, this one was probably in Mike McPadden's other book, Heavy Metal Movies. We're going to be talking about the movie Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal was always one of those movies I saw at the video store all the time. And I knew it was a cartoon, but I was not allowed to rent it because it was rated R. But I just saw that poster.
You're so young. You actually saw it at the video store. That's cute.
Well, yeah, it came out before I was born, 1981.
Yeah, but okay, it's legendary because it didn't get a video release until the mid-90s. And
That makes
sometimes you
sense,
would find a
'cause-
video sort of had a bootleg of an HBO recording.
Yeah.
They would rent out.
Yeah, so yeah, this would have been in the 90s, so it was probably brand spanking new on video. But I always looked at it and went, man, that movie looks awesome. You know, there's this chick with a sword riding a giant monster, and it's called Heavy Metal, so you know it rocks. But so Stu, you wanted to do this movie. What's your history with heavy metal?
Same as you. Always saw it in the video store on a shelf. Never rented it. I don't know why. I'm not that much into fantasy films, animated or real. You know, Clash of the Titans. I'll tell you that one. Why? I just don't like that sort of stuff. But what happened was sort of like a chain of events. Lately, I've been listening to Cheap Trick a lot. I mean, a lot. Just got back into Cheap Trick again.
I was actually listening to them today. Hadn't listened to them in a while. And
I was the same. I thought, and I popped on Spotify. I was in the car at work and scrolling through albums. Thought, In Color, heard it a million times. Dream Police, same. One on One. Oh, the Epic Archives. All unreleased stuff. Okay, no worries. Popped it on, and Reach Out was on that album. I'm like, oh wow, cool. That's right, from heavy metal. I thought, oh
yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing that. I know I had the the file somewhere on my external hard drive that I got somewhere, and when I messaged you guys, said what we want to do next, and John said about doing a Ralph Bakshi film, I thought, yeah, cool, let's do heavy metal, but it's not him. But I thought it was.
It's kind of the animation feels kind of underground, like Bakshi.
Yeah,
you know, kind of slobby in places. It's done by a bunch of different animation houses, so the animation's kind of all over the shop.
Yep.
So
and basically, so when we came to that, I thought, well, I want to see heavy metal because here in Cheap Trick again, and I remember going through the soundtrack, and wow, it's a pretty stacked soundtrack.
Yeah,
Blois to Cult, Black Sabbath, Cheap Trick,
Sammy, Nazareth,
Sammy, yeah, Nazareth,
Devo,
a whole bunch on there.
Riggs,
Riggs,
but no Motar. But anyway, so I thought we'll do heavy metal, and I'll give it a watch. I don't know if you boys had seen it. I had not seen it. I thought, well, 90 minutes, I can sit down and do that. And
yeah, I'd seen it like 3 times. I think it was one of those things where I was at the store, I saw the DVD and I went, I've never seen this. I want to watch this. And this was like back in college or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was kind of disappointed by it. I kind of went, the animation's kind of and it's kind of all over the place. And I remember thinking, like, when it opens with the soft landing segment with the car and the music by Riggs playing, I was like, this movie rules. And then the spaceman gets out of the car, and it's this guy who looks like Ron Jeremy going to his house, and this like orb starts talking, and then it just kind of veers into all these different places. And the first time I watched it, I had read up on Metal Hurlant and the magazine it's based on, but I was kind of taken aback when I picked up the DVD and I noticed it was produced by Ivan Reitman and it had John Candy and Harold Ramis. I was like,
that is a strange choice, I tell you, for a film like this.
Yeah, and I was like, is this I remember thinking, is this a secret National Lampoon movie?
Kind of.
And what?
Kind of.
Yeah, it kind of is, because
heavy metal was published when it started in this country, in America. It was published it was from the publishers of National Lampoon. They got the rights to Metal Hurlant, and they said they wanted a second magazine to showcase Euro comics. And they basically got the rights to Metal Hurlant, and which I think actually translates as hurling metal or throwing metal.
I think it's howling metal.
Or howling metal or whatever. They were claiming screaming metal in their press junkets at the time, but it ran for a few years. But they also published American artists like Richard Corbin, who were underground geniuses, really, who did kind of very R-rated fantasy comics. And I think when the National Lampoon people were looking at other movie projects to follow up Animal House, and they had a deal with Columbia, they talked to Ivan Reitman, and he was interested in maybe doing an R-rated adult sci-fi anthology thing based on heavy metal because they saw material for movies in there. And of course, you have all these SCTV people doing the dubbing because they did the whole thing in Canada. And SCTV was the only Canadian export TV show at the time, so getting that voice talent on there was a catch. So yeah, it was it's a Canadian production. It's not considered an American film in any way.
And the director is Canadian director Gerald Potterton, and he worked on Yellow Submarine. And he also directed one of Buster Keaton's last movies, that I've talked about on here, The Railrodder, which has an amazing behind the scenes doc called Buster Keaton Rides Again. But I think Potterton just died recently.
Yeah, he did. Just a few months ago. I was stunned that he had directed the Buster Keaton stuff. I was like, wow. I was like, I recognize that name.
Totally crazy. But yeah, Potterton had an interesting career. He worked on that Animal Farm cartoon.
Oh Lord.
Worked on a lot of stuff. I think he won an Oscar. I think he's an Oscar winner too. I think he won best animated short at the Oscars or something. So
anyway, what I came away with after this was the film should have been renamed from Heavy Metal to Giant Tits. Because that's what there is, man. I had no idea what I was in for. I mean, I'm not avert to that sort of stuff, but I had no idea there was this much in it.
Yeah, and it's pretty full on, you know, like, but I got to say that, you know, I said I was kind of disappointed the first time, and you know, I went back and gave it another shot, and I liked it a bit more, and I think I've come around on it this time. There's a lot more that I like about it, but yeah, John, how did you see it when it came out?
I saw the TV ads when it came out in 1981, and being 9 years old at the time, I was kind of tripping out that there was like this R-rated cartoon because I was not aware of Fritz the Cat or the Ralph Bakshi stuff or anything. I didn't know there was such a thing as R-rated cartoons.
Horrible movies.
They're not good. And then it's funny because I couldn't see it, of course, until 1982, and it was all over cable, or actually 83. It wasn't on. It was not on TV until 1983 because they must have been running the circuit through the drive-ins and the midnight movies before they wanted to put it on HBO. And so I did see it on HBO, and I was a little disappointed because the ads showed, I think the animation was given a little glossy makeover for the clips for the trailer, and you can see it on YouTube. It looks a little slicker than it looks in the actual film, and to me, I was surprised how much it looked like Filmation or a Saturday morning cartoon at the time. I was a bit disappointed, although I did love the energy and the music of watching it, and the violence was shocking to me at the time. I hadn't seen a lot of violent, sexy stuff, and you're seeing cartoon characters all splattering with gore and blood and spurting blood and everything like a baby cart movie, and then you're seeing these animated women that look like Playmates, you know, straight out of Playboy. It was like, wow, this is trippy. And you know, for a kid reading like Savage Sword of Conan, it was kind of a blast. But so I would try to catch it every time it was on HBO, and I think eventually I recorded VHS recording off Cinemax or something, and I noticed it was never in video stores. And at the time, that's when I learned about the music rights issue and how that can keep something off of home video permanently. And but it's funny because when it came out in the mid-90s, Kevin Eastman bought the heavy metal what would you call it, trademark and publishing. He took over publishing the magazine with his company, and one of his goals was to get all the music clearances, you know, resolved and get the damn thing out on home video. And that's what, and it was this huge selling home video. But the funny thing is, I watched it in the 90s and I didn't like it as much, I guess, because I've been exposed to all this different stuff and Japanese animation and, you know, French animation or whatever, like Fantastic Planet that came out on Criterion.
Fantastic Planet,
which I thought, you know, from a critical standpoint, that's actually more impressive than heavy metal. Watching it now, I haven't watched it in years, I mean decades actually. I still like the music. The animation moves even slower than I remembered. Like it's a bit stilted.
Mhm.
The voice work from the SCTV crew is, because I know their work so well. It's like that's Eugene Levy as Captain Stern and all
Yeah.
that. It's funny. I used to think the Harry Canyon segment was the best. Now I don't think so. Now it's just kind of sluggish and just Mickey
It's my
Spillane
favorite. It's one I
cliches.
like the most. I enjoy that the most.
That's your
That one.
favorite. It's
I
typical.
that
First time
that's
viewing,
based on
everybody tends to love that one.
it's not my favorite, but it is one I enjoy. I kind of like the Mebius sort of look
Yeah,
it has. And
which was duplicated for The Fifth Element. Luc Besson.
Yeah, I was about to say it is the Fifth Element.
He pretty much stole that and hired Mobius to do the art and design for the Fifth Element, because he was basically doing Harry Canyon.
Yeah, it's and my favorite short is B-17, the tail gunner one that Dan O'Bannon wrote.
Really?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that one with the zombies on the plane. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I really liked Cap. It's funny watching it this time. The stuff I used to love, I didn't care as much for, but I really liked Captain Stern.
Yeah, that
it's
one.
A very, very faithful adaptation of Bernie Wrightson's strip that he did for Heavy Metal magazine.
See, to me, when I watched this, I actually watched this twice. I watched it once, and I thought, I've got to watch it again today to see if I can get my head around it a bit more, because I had no idea what the hell I just watched the first time. And from the Captain Stern onwards, it became a mess.
Because it's for stoners. It's not for sober people. It's totally made for stoners. That segment, that weird segment with the UFO, vacuuming the girl up into the place that she's in a relationship with the robot. That whole thing was just a drug. It was just an excuse to have cocaine jokes.
Oh, they said
that felt like a National Lampoon bit.
Yeah, it felt like that was a real story from the magazine. That's one of the few that's actually was really in the mag.
And it feels like a cartoon you'd see in like some naughty magazine like Playboy or something. Like, hey, here's a robot sleeping with a chick, you know,
right? John Candy.
and he's smoking,
like Penthouse Comics,
Yeah. No, I liked the Captain Stern one more this time around. That one did nothing for me the last two times, and this time I thought it was funny. I liked the little twist at the end, and goodbye. But Stu, I am kind of with, I think the Tarna segment, the really big one at the end that's on the poster, I think that one kind of wears out its welcome. I was kind of over that one. And every time I've watched it, I've kind of been like, all right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. See, I liked the Radar Rider, the opening soft landing one.
Yeah.
Which goes into, what is it, Grimaldi? Which is the father going home to the daughter with the orb, and obviously the eviscerates the father, and the orb starts talking to the daughter, which makes no sense, because if the daughter is the threat, why the hell is the orb just telling her stories? It makes no sense.
Because the script says he...
Yeah, it does.
We need to establish he's dangerous, and then the orb is going to explain to us everything.
But I mean, I was okay by this point. I got the Harry Canyon. I really enjoyed that. I like
that one.
I like Den, the one after that as well. That was good with the kid.
That one's the most like a... when I first watched it, when I first watched the movie, I was really into Robert E. Howard at the time. So I liked that one because it felt like a Conan story, like that you've got weird cultists, you've got like these sort of fey decadent rulers. You just can't wait to see them get their skulls crushed,
Yeah.
And plus the juxtaposition of having this big muscle bound guy running around and John Candy going, oh boy, here I'm here back home, I'm nothing here.
Richard Corbin was very pleased with the Den adaptation. And if you go on YouTube, you can find Richard Corbin in the 60s made Den cartoons that you can find on YouTube. They're not very well done, but they're kind of amazing, because it's like, God, he probably did this by himself in the 60s, working a daily office job or factory job. And it depicts, like, I think it's Corbin himself reading like Edgar Rice Burroughs' Princess of Mars, and then he's dreaming up the Den fantasy with, the more of the sex and violence, which I think was the intention. But I thought that was probably the best adaptation. Some of the other stories are not adaptations. Like Tarna is an original done for the film, just based on Chris Achilleos and Mobius designs.
Yeah. By the time I got around to B-17, I thought, it's just it now just feels like they're running out of money and just throwing shit in there and padding this out.
I liked that one just because I thought it was cool having the World War II and then the zombies and
but
it just was a neat little short ghost story.
The problem is that the Loc-Nar felt less and less of a important subject of the shorts. Obviously not the parts where the Loc-Nar speaking to the daughter, the bridge parts. It became less and less. Harry Canyon was important. Then it was important. It kind of important with Captain Stern, not much, but then it just felt less and less.
Yeah. I mean, the wraparound story is pretty weak with the with that and the girl turning into the it's just, I don't know if it was even needed. Like the image of the green lights coming out of the house, I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, it does feel kind of all over the place because they felt like they needed an excuse to hold all this together.
Yep.
John, you mentioned Kevin Eastman taking over the heavy metal brand. That was what he did when he parted ways with Peter Laird when they were doing not Image.
Ninja Turtles.
When they're Mirage, Ninja Turtles. They parted ways, and they're back together as buds now, and they're I think working together again. But he was saying that this was kind of his move to like do edgier stuff.
Well, it's because Julie Strain's dead. She can't keep them apart now.
Yeah.
Press F.
And no kidding. But
actually, speaking of that, they're doing Umbrella's releasing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here on Blu-ray, but they're doing it with the Smell-O-Vision cards.
Was that a thing when that came out?
I think it was in theaters. John,
okay.
No,
not here.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I could have swore it. Or are they doing this exclusively for the Blu-ray? I don't know.
I was there opening day with my brother. No Smell-O-Vision cards.
Okay, so there must be something they're doing. But they're doing a thing where they're recreating the smell of the sewer, and
I can pass on that. But one thing he did was he made a sequel movie, Heavy Metal 2000, which the funniest line I heard about that was from Warren Sykes, Richard Juice on Twitter. I don't know what his whatever name he has on whatever platform, but he said it's a movie made to go straight to FYE.
He's right.
Yes. Like that's exactly the kind of junk you would see, like, oh sweet, Heavy Metal 2000 at the mall. But I never saw
it went straight to FYE because it didn't play theaters from what I remember.
No, it was, but I never saw that one, but I never heard anybody recommending it.
It's not good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Let's put Julie Strain was married to Kevin Eastman at the time. And it's just like, I'll put you in Tarna and make it a 90-minute animated movie. And it's just like they wanted to do the Warrior Woman thing and as a fetish object, and it just
real life big
so
tits.
boring. Yeah. It's like, and I saw Julie Strain in person, and shockingly not. I hate this sound mean, but she's not that attractive in person. It's weird. It's just like, I think she'd had a lot of work done and stuff. And just
I know there are some people I know, some female, some women I know who just look really good on camera, but in real life, it doesn't jive with how they look when I see them. It's really weird.
Yeah. She was very tall. She and him were tall. It was like they were going to produce a race of giants.
I was going to ask you if she's as tall as they say she was. They always went on about she was like 6'2" or something.
She was tall.
Oh wow, okay.
She was really tall, and plus she's wearing boots because it's the ChillerCon. So it's,
wow,
like she was a giant. She was taller than the cos. And if anybody was cosplaying, she was taller than them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, the two people who were extremely tall in person that I recall from the ChillerCon was Julie Strain and John Philip Law. John Philip Law was a giant. He could have played for the NBA.
Oh wow, didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean he was a tall dude.
Is that when you went with old Laser Craze boss that time, was it?
Yeah, it was probably one of those
Yeah.
trips. I think
And Gary.
their table was right across from the Julie Strain and Monique Gabriel uh, um like autograph table or whatever, where they had the Scream Queens and they had their thrones set up or something. And Monique Gabrielle just looked like a silicone. She just looked like a mess. She looked like a floaty that you'd put in the swimming pool,
Yeah,
She
float a
just
mile
like
away.
the rack was just like
Yeah.
crazy, She didn't look like she looked at a bachelor party, and put it that way.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Your eyes are closed when you're fucking them anyway, so what does it really matter what they look like?
Well, I don't think anybody there or anybody buying an autograph was getting lucky. So,
Yeah.
But Kevin Eastman's version of Heavy Metal magazine wasn't very successful.
No, it wasn't, strangely enough. I also think that was sort of where I think the price of paper went up or something, and it wiped out the fanzine market. I think some people could probably give us a better history on that, but I noticed Chris Gore was talking about it a couple of weeks ago on one of those Nerdrotic vidcast or whatever. He's talking about like the price of paper suddenly shot up, and like all the zine guys who were in the Tower book section were put out of business. It was strange, and I think Kevin Eastman was involved in some sort of distribution business scandal or problem, or they got screwed over by print. I can't remember what the deal was, but that was around the era that comic book stores were blowing out their inventory like crazy because the comic market just flipped, it just bottomed out, and a lot of it was Marvel took over Diamond Distributors, if I'm remembering correctly. It was a long time ago, but like you could walk in and you could stuff that would have been $5 or $10, you could get 3 for $1. It was weird. It's when I started getting back into reading comic books for a while, which I kind of regret.
Yeah, no, I never thought, I always kind of thought of his Heavy Metal magazine as a failed venture. But, I remember
the National Lampoon version was successful. Like I remember seeing that. They would always have that if you were in a bookstore that would be behind the register, like up there with the Playboys, the Penthouse, and then you'd see the copy of Heavy Metal. And it's like, ooh, when I'm old enough to buy that, I never did.
Yeah.
I've never owned an issue in my entire life.
Yeah, I've never read a page of the comics. I've just heard about them. But I remember for years and years and years, there was this talk that David Fincher was going to do a Heavy Metal movie.
Oh boy.
And I did not know this until today, but it's happened.
Really?
It's just, they did. Did you know that, John?
Yes, I found out this week after watching this and looking it up.
I had no clue. Well, part of it is it's not called Heavy Metal. It's called Love, Death, and Robots. They changed the title, but it's produced by David Fincher and Josh Donnan, the son of Stanley Donnan, the director of Singing in the Rain. And it's gone for 3 seasons. And
the TV show, is it?
Yeah, it's a Netflix series.
Never heard of it.
It was. I was hearing all my friends were watching. What is it called? Love, Sex, and Robots or something?
Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah, Love, Death, and Robots. And friends on Facebook were praising it. I still haven't watched it, but I just found out this week. Oh, that was actually the Heavy Metal sequel that was in development, and they just turned it into a streaming series.
Yeah, Netflix just they were like, we'll buy it, but we want it to be a show.
Yeah, and the Heavy Metal trademark means nothing, and they probably lost the rights to it anyway. So they were just screw it, we'll just call it something else.
Yeah. But, I was going, oh, what's this? Because when I was getting ready for this, I was like, oh, what's the story with David Fincher's Heavy Metal? And, it came out in 2019. Okay.
It's funny that he's considered like a new Kubrick, and this is the type of stuff he's actually works on.
Yeah. I don't think of Fincher as the new Kubrick, or Denis Villeneuve or not, and certainly not Chris Nolan, but these are people who get foisted with that.
And then they title. Secretly turn out they have really trashy taste.
Yeah, like, Fincher, and we all know Fincher has trashy tastes. He directed all those music videos and commercials, and
Yeah.
Stuff
Spike
like that.
Jones. He's the new
Spike Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, Spike Jones is the new. No, it's we all know who it is. It's Michael Bay. He's the new Kubrick.
It's Tarantino.
Yeah, Tarantino. Yeah,
Imagine Tarantino's heavy metal. Oh my god.
It would be like there'd be really long, drawn out conversations in it.
At a
just
table.
be every chick would be Zoe Bell with inflatable tits.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, you wouldn't have the 80s ideal woman. You wouldn't see any of that.
No.
That is very of this time that it was made. That was,
Actually,
that was
all the women would have giant feet. And you just be like massive feet shots.
they would be
Carbon
like
feet.
turbo hobbits with giant feet.
Yeah.
Stomping, John Candy's character would land on the planet of women with giant feet, stomping around. Oh boy, twice in one day.
He's sucking toes.
Yeah.
Animated toes.
Oh man. But yeah, no, Fincher doing. But I remember when I heard Fincher was doing a heavy metal reboot, I went, well, that makes sense. That seems like something he would do, or would at least produce. But
I kept hearing he had the rights to do Grandizer, the Go Nagai giant robot cartoon. He was going to do a live action version or produce that. I would hear the weirdest rumors about David Fincher and what his next film was.
Do you
think
David
he wanted
Fincher...
to do just a big middle finger to critics who overrated him or something?
Yeah. Do you think David Fincher was huffing gasoline when he saw this movie for the first time?
I think he was. I think he and the Lucasfilm boys were like, maybe had some gas cans, and
they were listening to Cheap Trick, listening to Don Felder, getting the old
so metal that Don Felder.
Blue Oyster Cult.
Stevie Nicks is total metal.
Blue Oyster Cult wrote a song for the movie called Heavy Metal, the Silver and the Black, or the Black and the Silver, but the movie ended up using Veterans of the Psychic Wars, which I think was the correct choice. That song rules.
Yeah, it fits in better, I think.
That song feels like a story from a movie like this,
That the Sammy Hagar song actually should have been over the opening credits. It was just so badly misplaced.
In fact, that was something I misremembered. When I watched it again, I was expecting to hear the Sammy Hagar song, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's not on there. But I was like, like that was just a faulty memory I had of the movie.
Yeah, it's on there, but much later on in the film.
Well, here's an interesting thing that may be a Mandela effect, but I recall every time I watched it on HBO, during the closing credits, you heard Van Halen's Unchained. And I don't think I heard this on the current version, so I think that's been removed. No,
interesting. Maybe when it aired on TV, they could get that. Maybe there was a rights thing, and they could just
broadcast rights were way cheaper than home video. But I noticed a lot of the bands were on Irving Azoff's management, and I think he dealt with Van Halen at the time, so they got Unchained on there for the original theatrical and cable TV version. But I was reading Wikipedia. They said the sound effects are different in the B-17 scene. That were changed by the THX people in the mid-90s. Like there's a scream or something. I mean, it's just kind of this weird autistic stuff that, who cares? But I've noticed that supposedly they made some permanent changes in the soundtrack.
Interesting. Yeah, but Ivan Reitman must have been, because he did some new special features for the 4K disc, and was doing it via Zoom. So, even right before death, he was doing stuff about heavy metal.
He was hired. He had a deal with Hollywood to do basically entertainment for would have been the boomer generation stoner crowd. Animal House, even his early stuff like Cannibal Girls. He produced like the early Cronenberg, the real trashy Cronenberg.
His early stuff. People forget how trashy Ivan Reitman's early stuff was. for a guy who became very mainstream. He was producing Cronenberg and Cannibal Girls and stuff.
I might be wrong, but I think he worked on Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS. But
I've heard that too.
Jeez.
Yeah. I've heard that too, that he worked on that.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't shock me.
Who was it who worked on Shame of the Jungle, the Tarzan X-rated animated?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
Was it Bill Murray? I think it was the voice of.
Bill Murray did the voices. They had all the SNL people doing the voices. I don't know who got the rights to it though. Like if Warren Michaels got the rights or somebody involved with SNL got the rights. I don't think it was Ivan Reitman.
No, I don't think it was. But it was. I remember thinking Bill Murray was attached to Shame of the Jungle for some reason.
Yeah. He did the dubbing because it was a Belgian cartoon, I think.
Oh, was it?
And they had the SNL people do the dubbing, dub the voices. Probably one day's work.
Okay.
In New York because easy to do.
All right, so are you ready for some of these names that Reitman produced under a fake name, Ilsa the Tigress of Siberia? He produced House by the Lake, which looks like a low-budget Canadian horror film.
Very sleazy. It's very sleazy Canadian trash.
He produced and was music supervisor on Shivers, and he was the producer and cinematographer on a movie called The Columbus of Sex. So there you go. And yeah, I think so. Yeah, he has pretty sketchy background.
And fun fact, Rob Zombie owns all those movies.
Yes, he definitely has Ilsa Tigress of Siberia.
He bet on that one.
But yeah, this, instead of being a Nazi, she's a commie, and
I've seen it.
Torturing men in the gulag.
Not proud to say, but I've seen it.
Sybil Danning?
No, it's Diane Thorne.
Oh, okay.
It has the big gore highlight that was censored. I think it was censored on a lot of videos, but it was uncensored on a video I rented in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Yeah, had a video store that was on the outskirts of town. They let me rent it. I think I was only 17 at the time. But these guys were arm wrestling over chainsaws, and then an arm gets sliced off, chainsaw off, and it's a pretty good effect.
Yeah,
sweet.
That one was more of a bloody action adventure. There wasn't as much of the sex and sadism as in the other Ilsa movies.
Yeah,
but speaking of like weird backgrounds, like, when I look at a lot of the directors, because each segment had a different director, like Gerald Potterton kind of oversaw all the different teams. Yeah. But I look at a lot of the directors, and they all worked on such quaint other movies, like A Christmas Carol. And it's all like this like nice Canadian British programming, and then there's this where I guess they let their hair down.
Well, it's like
supposedly this was hell for the animators when they were making it, because I guess the people involved overseeing the production were only experienced with live action, and so they were saying you got to make them look more real, and they said wait a minute, that's not the point of animation. Is like is you're doing caricatures of people, not real people.
You're not rotoscoping at all. It's just
and the thing is too is like with animation, a lot of people's main touchstone is Disney, and Disney's level of quality is, the Disney does not want you to know you're watching a cartoon. They're not going for realism, but the animation is so advanced that you are lost in it. Does that make sense? Like Walt never wanted you to go like, oh, I'm sitting in a movie theater, whereas like I think something like this or Ralph Bakshi or anime, it's a little more rough around the edges. It's meant to be a cartoon, like same with Looney Tunes, and
not riddled with political messages like Disney is.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about the classical Disney mold, like Lion King, Snow White, all those movies. Like there was just this standard for the animation that was obscenely high.
The Mexicans shitting in the cornfields.
What? Oh yeah. One? Oh man, that's a deep cut. Yeah, the racist Disney cartoons.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, those were a trip.
Yeah, well, there's an odd mix of or odd use of rotoscoping in heavy metal. Like in some scenes they have it, some they don't. It's real. It's kind of jarring when you how the animation quality kind of changes from scene to scene, even in one story segment.
Well, that's something that doesn't really work about Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, which is probably his highest quality production, but it goes in and out of rotoscoping, which is jarring. Like you'll have the Mines of Moria sequences all rotoscoped, and then we're back to the hand-drawn style, and it's inconsistent.
Animation certainly has come a long way since
it really has.
Since Sunday Go to Meet in Time.
Since oh my gosh, Sunday Go to Meet in Time. I'll never forget Sunday Go to Meet in Time.
You cannot unsee that once you've seen it.
Oh man, is that the one that features Cab Calloway?
Yeah,
was he in that one?
I think it was.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that. God, that was one of our first ones he did back in 2010.
Yeah.
We're talking about go back in the archives on the website to the Censored 11, was it? We called that or something like that?
Yeah, it was the Filthy 13 or something. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
The Dirty 8, the Dirty 9. Filthy Few.
Like Censored 11 or something we did.
I've never watched them. They always pop up on YouTube and they get pulled and they pop up again. But I've never sat down. I probably need to just to.
Oh yeah, you should. Yeah, you really should. Not the most sensitive content they've produced.
No.
But well, I mean, is there anything we haven't hit on heavy metal yet, Stu? Any other thoughts about it when you?
Nah, I mean, after a second viewing, I got a little bit closer to sort of understanding it, but it is a bit of a mess, really.
Is it something you think you'd watch again?
Yes, only because the first half is so strong.
Yeah.
In content that I found the last half be a bit of a chore to get through. And probably because the vignettes or the sections are so short. The Harry Canyon's 20 minutes. Den is 20 minutes. Next one is 3 or 4 minutes, and it's 7 minutes. And you think, okay, this isn't really threading the story together. What I was looking for was a Creepshow kind of story. Yes, Creepshow's live action, but they're all connected.
It has that comic book thing that ties it all together, and it really works,
And it should have been better than what it was, but he's got a strong soundtrack. I mean, you can't deny that soundtrack isn't a good soundtrack.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, that's it for me. I've got no more.
Any other thoughts, John?
Well, that soundtrack was in record stores forever, and was always in print. I think it was more successful than the movie. And for years, that'll be like the first thing people would buy when they get a new format was we gotta get the heavy metal soundtrack.
Well, John, they'd buy that, and what else?
Rob Zombie,
Can of Gas.
Can of Gas. Yes, for huffing. Yes, the urban legend goes, and it's probably true for most people, is that in small town America, young kind of hick kids who couldn't afford weed would watch heavy metal and huff gasoline. So we may have some people who can confirm this, but I have heard this story.
Did you huff gas and watch heavy metal? No. If so,
I was shocked
reach out to us at Midnight.
The funny thing is when Blake Northcott, who is a Canadian comic book writer, she's pretty funny. She's really talented. They hired her to write the Tarna comics because they brought Tarna back as a comic book character. She, although invented for the movies, they realized there was some potential sales in giving her own comic book a couple of years back. And Blake said that she was writing a Tarna story for the next issue of Heavy Metal. And I tweeted to her, I said, "So should I get my gasoline ready to huff?" And she said, "Yes, sir. Yes, indeed." So apparently this is a known thing. So I'm sure we'll have a lot of older listeners going, "Oh yeah, I have."
So if you huffed gas and listened to and watched the movie Heavy Metal or listen to the soundtrack, please reach out to us on Facebook or on Twitter. We'd love
reach
to hear
out.
from you.
Like Cheap Trick said, reach out.
This will get us pulled off YouTube.
Reach
I'm
out.
sure.
You know which other film you got to do the gas huffing to? And I'm sure it was made that way on purpose.
What?
Dangerous people. Huff the gas.
Oh yeah.
You understand it better.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. So what would you rate this movie, Stu?
Yeah, Jesus, difficult to say. I probably want to say, I would say 5. I mean, it's not entirely a mess towards the end, even though I've just been saying that for the last hour. I really like the first 4 up until and including Dan. I like the bridge sections with the Loc-Nar speaking to the daughter and some of the other ones. Tana, as you said, Hunter, does overstay its welcome. It just goes. It feels like a bit of a Masters of the Universe cartoon or a She-Ra Princess of Power sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I like those. Don't get me wrong, but it feels like a cheap cousin to it. So yeah, I would say 5, and I would say give it a watch. Just please don't inhale any chemicals. We don't advocate this sort of thing. You know, that is an urban legend. No, don't endorse it.
No, disavow.
Mm-hmm.
John, what do you give Heavy Metal?
If you had asked me when I was 12, I would have told you like an 8. Nowadays, I look at it, I give it like a 5. It doesn't blow me away. I think a better movie from this era that was completely underseen and underrated at the time, and I think was probably greenlit in response to this, because this did pretty decently in theaters that summer. This is a summer movie. Imagine that. Was Ralph Bakshi's Fire and Ice.
That's the one you suggested, John. That's what you suggested initially, Fire and Ice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a far better. That's when you have really the artistic vision of 2 artists solely overseeing like a 80-minute or however long it is full-length film, and I think it works a lot better. I think the fantasy and animation and the imagery, because they tried to basically make a story out of different Frank Frazetta paintings, and I think that actually works a whole lot better and far superior to this. Even if there's no Blue Oyster Cult and Cheap Trick on the soundtrack, but it's a far more enjoyable viewing experience. I think it holds up amazingly well.
You can always pop it in Final Cut Pro and just add some songs in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Black Sabbath Neon Nights during the sword fights.
Right. That's right. The rock cut, the fire and roll.
I prefer that. I prefer Fire and Ice. Now I can say it's the better of that decade for adult.
It should have been called Rock and Roll. Then it could have been like a response to Heavy Metal. It's Rock and Roll.
Yeah. Well, there was Rock and Rule by Nelvana, which they were approached to work on Heavy Metal, and they refused. They said, no, we're doing our own movie, and they were doing Rock and Rule, which is it's a cult favorite. I don't think I've ever seen it. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but never the whole film.
Instead, we got Studio 666 with Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters,
which I never saw. It kind of looked like a piece of crap. But
I think Taylor Hawkins watched it and said, "Yeah, this I'm checking out. I can't take it."
Gosh, Taylor Hawkins. You know, that movie comes out and then he dies.
He dies. It's his eyes wide shut, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know, Dave Grohl, after his attitude during COVID, I kind of equate him with yacht rock these days.
Oh, really?
Freaking conformist. So.
Did y'all see Steve Albini going after Steely Dan on Twitter?
No.
Like Steve Albini was like, how the hell are there people out there who like
I agree.
Steely
I
Dan
don't get
and
it.
he was just and like all these people were like attacking him, saying, how dare you? And he goes, wrong audience, I guess. But for that
I tried listening to that album Aja, whatever it's called. Is that what it's called of theirs?
Yeah, Aja,
whatever. Man, nearly fell asleep at the wheel. I just don't.
The guy in the song drink Scotch whiskey all night long and die behind the wheel.
Yeah, probably. I wasn't far from it. The only song of theirs I really like. Oh, there's a couple, but the one off the FM soundtrack was great. I really like that a lot.
Well, I give Heavy Metal, I'm when I first saw it, I would have given it like a 4. I think I bumped it up to like a 6.
Okay.
Pretty good. I appreciate the animation and its kind of variants and all that now. It didn't wear out its welcome as much, but I still think like, some of the shorts wear out their welcome. I could do without the Pentagon robot sex one. That one with Harold Ramis. That one didn't do much for me, but I like
that
most
had the
of the
best
segments.
backgrounds.
What?
That had the best backgrounds. That's what was so stupid.
Yeah, it did.
It did. It had the best animation, really.
But yeah, and John Candy was the robot in that one. John Candy's character's got all the action in this.
It felt like an exercise scene from a Futurama episode or something.
Yeah, it did. It felt, but like John said, it does feel like stoner humor. Like, whoa, the robot and the girl are hooking up, man. Whoa,
giant bush in that broad, man. It's like Tarzan.
But yeah, so this one, every time there's a new format for movies or music, it feels like Heavy Metal is one of the first things to come to it now, ever since DVD and Blu-ray and 4K. Like there's a 4K of well, I don't know, 4K's been around for a while. I think the 4K of Heavy Metal is fairly recent, so maybe not.
It is. But, now the big question:
strong seller.
Are you going to get the 4K of Heavy Metal?
Am I? Maybe. It has a good price.
You want them UHD TITS, don't you? Now high res HDR.
Yeah, in Dolby Vision. Whoa.
Dolby Vision.
Zolly's gonna post pictures of it.
Maybe in
Heavy
DR10
Metal in
or it's
Dolby Vision.
not worth it. Yeah. All right.
And then so anything to plug, fellas?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to the people who donated via the Ko-Fi for this month. It would be Trent Reynolds and Cecil Birch, the frequent regular contributors, which thank you. And a nice donation from our friend Mr. Eric Moeller over Watch This Movie, which basically covered our Zoom for this month. Thank God. So thanks to that. So on that, I'm going to say go listen to our friends over at Watch This Movie, Eric and Wolfie, of course. They just dropped one last night from the point in time this recording about, I can't remember. Shit, what was it? Oh, fuck. I can't remember. Anyway, it was something or another. It was one of those kids' Christmas ones. Never Ending Story. That's not a Christmas one, but it was that. Yeah.
One of those that feels like it could be.
It could be, yeah.
Well, John, you have anything?
Just a note. Elon did not ban me. I deactivated my own Twitter, in case anybody was wondering. So
why is that?
You don't see my rantings on there. It's just I just decided to do it.
The black cat's disappeared, eh?
Yeah, it's all gone. Because I've been on there for like 12, 13 years. Whenever that old show started up.
Boy.
And it's just like I really only had it to promote the old show, and then I just kind of kept it there for I don't even know why I still had it. I peaked out at like 600 followers, and it's just like it never really grew from that. And also it's like I'm gonna be applying for some work just to try to get better jobs out there, and you don't want a social media history that people can access. And
no, just a podcast one for about 10 years.
No, not him. HR, they full time, they have to do something. So they'll look for your presence on social media. So if I made a mean joke about Patton Oswalt, that could just cost me a higher paying gig.
Fucking hell, are you serious? I thought you'd get a promotion, wouldn't it?
Not really. Yeah, they should. It's like, no, it's a weird time. It's like you can be of one political point of view on Twitter, and it's not mine, and you could be fine. You can post all the hateful crap you want, but there's plenty of celebrities you can look at that stuff, and plenty of people. But
like Garrow,
boy,
screaming about being a liberal.
A point of view. But if you got another point of view, it can hurt if HR is really invasive of the public space. Let's just put it that way. So, and it's like, and I don't miss it. It was getting tiresome. It's just right-wing grifters fighting with left-wing grifters. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
really
that's
all
it is.
Dumped that fucking place in 2016 and never gone back.
Yeah, I can see why. There's nothing to miss. I miss interacting with some people like Richard Juice and some of the other cool accounts, but
yeah,
I think I'm interacting with those guys under other names on Facebook and I don't even realize it. So
yeah,
and I can always go back and look at their page, see what they're posting. So
I just use it to interact with the people I like on there. So that's all I use it for. Stay out of the grifter wars, but
it's boring. It's so after the Steven Crowder drama, I was like, I shouldn't even be paying attention to this crap.
Yeah.
Get off social media and enrich your life a bit more. Get off it.
Log off and touch grass, as the kids say.
Oh yes.
Yes, I've already been reading more since getting rid of Twitter. It's surprising how much time it's cut from me being on the internet at all.
Same with shitbook. I don't bother fucking shitbook.
Not reading on us. Yeah, not reading on a screen. Well, I don't have anything to plug, so I'm still on Twitter, so you can find me there. Anyway, give me a follow. Boost my numbers. I've got to have my tweets doing numbers.
Saves him buying his own followers.
That's right. I don't have to buy my followers. I want real followers.
I
want my tweets. Tweets got to be doing numbers. I want them doing numbers, Tone. Anyway,
actually, one guy on YouTube, I won't say the channel, was this guy who runs his mouth about how many followers he's got. Somebody actually did a live viewing of his view account, of his subscriber account. Sorry, was filming it, and all of a sudden it went up an even 1,000 in one go.
Wow.
And he got busted buying them. It's like, oh man, that's fucking sad.
Yep. A lot of the internet is an illusion. Well, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and say adios.
Peace out.
And now it's time for Rue Britannia with your foreign correspondent, the Nez.
In a move that will surprise nobody other than those who still think that Biden is tough on China, Scottish Prime Minister Nicola Sturgeon resigned this week after publicly being humiliated by her continued support for woke CRGT. The previously unrepentant sweaty socky pays the price for deciding that a convicted male rapist who identifies as a femme should be sent to a woman's prison. Cue outrage. Though Sturgeon's woke was so hardline, she frankly really couldn't see it. The decision was reversed. This on top of the SNP government's transgender bill, which effectively gave equal status to women and transgenders. It also allowed children to basically have sex changes, a law which ultimately had to be reversed and overturned by the government in Downing Street. The London MSM, which boasted that the government's decision to scrap the Scottish government's transgender bill would hand victory over to Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP, also lies humiliated. Good thing too. Sturgeon's departure effectively leaves her party in turmoil, and Scottish independence effectively now in tatters. Scotland the grave, clearly. Community affairs, and the locals of Knowsley, Merseyside, decided to have an open-air barbecue last week by trying to set fire to a local hostel used by the local council to house illegal immigrants. So much for central heating. Tensions were inflamed when a 25-year-old Muslim illegal immigrant tried to rape a 15-year-old teenager. Boy, Muslim, leave those kids alone. In short, as a result of protests and riotous assembly outside the hostel, 15 were arrested. The London media was embarrassed. Even better, 4 more Muslim illegal immigrants in Kent last week were arrested over allegations of raping an English child. This is the type of thing that the London media so shamefully covered up for over 30 years. Thankfully, these days, no more. Sport. And the search for 45-year-old missing mother Nicola Bulley enters its 4th week this week, with the media becoming increasingly irritable over a lack of result, the local police becoming increasingly more baffled and lacking leads, and the local diver who searched the local waterway calling the police a bunch of idiots. In short, it's somewhat of a slack news period, so it's hardly much of a surprise that the media had to effectively elevate the story in terms of what otherwise would have been a story of just low interest and frankly low regard altogether. Basically, page 6. Bully, having disappeared without trace in daylight 4 weeks ago, has confounded the police. No evidence of either abduction or foul play. No evidence of an intentional disappearance. No evidence that she actually fell into a local river. After a month, the media was now so effectively bored with the story, they're now effectively preparing to leave the scene of the crime, if indeed there actually was a crime. Meanwhile, John Law still continues to be baffled, although for the time being, the case is probably best filed under the category Shaggy Dog, or maybe perhaps if you're ultra cynical, Ace in the Hole. Further notes in passing, Labour leader Keir Starmer last week announces that Jeremy Corbyn will not have the party whip restored ahead of the next general election. Effectively, it marks the end of Corbyn's 43-year parliamentary career. Hamas and the Provisional IRA again have gone into mourning. The Brit Awards were held last week, the busiest night of the year for London's cocaine dealers, let alone the London music industry. Nobody watched it, of course. And NATO claimed that Britain is not ready to lead a military rapid reaction force. Although what NATO actually did to stop Chinese spy balloons is frankly open to question. PAX.